Today we're going to be learning about area and perimeter using pentominoes. But what are pentominoes? Let's look in front of me real quick and show you all the different shapes for one set of pentominoes. The first thing you want to do is look at each of the different shapes and just make some general observations. I want you to write down maybe 2 to 4 different observations that you've made by just looking at the different shapes and designs of the different pentominoes. And you can pause this video to write down your shapes, and when you're ready to move on, then you can continue to hit play. So let's jump into day 1 and activity 1 next. The next thing that you're going to be doing is getting worksheet 1, and we're going to be working through that as a class. So the worksheet 1 has 2 different sheets, page 1 and 2. And at the very top of worksheet 1, you'll notice that there's a space that's for area and perimeter. So we're going to define what area and perimeter is. Area is the space inside the figure. Perimeter is the distance and the round outer edge of the figure. In this case, the figure being the pentominoes. So we're going to write those definitions down. If you need to pause the video, great. But then after you've done that, we're going to focus on the first pentomino. And I want you to grab the pentomino letter that looks like a letter I. All right, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is write down or draw what the pentomino looks like. We notice that there are 5 different boxes or squares for this pentomino. And the area is the space inside the figure. So if we look at this, we notice that this is 1, this is 1, this is 1, this is 1, and this is 1. And if we add them all together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there are 5 square units. So we know the area of this pentomino, the letter I, that looks like the letter I, is 5 square units. The perimeter is the distance around the outer edge. All right, and each of these different edges from each square counts as 1. So for the top of this shape, we know that there is 1 unit. On the right side of this shape, we know that there are 5 units. On the bottom, we know that there is, again, 1 unit. And on the left side, again, there are 5 units. So the perimeter would be adding up each of these different sides. So 1 plus 5 plus 1 plus 5. And if we add those all up, that would equal 12. But we don't want to just write 12. The unit of measure is 12 units. It has to stand for something. That's why for area we write 5 square units. All right, and so that is the first pentomino. The second pentomino that I want you to work together is the letter L. So if you look at this, it looks like the letter L. Again, we're going to draw this out, each one of these squares. And then we're going to determine what is the square units, which is the area, and what is the perimeter, which is units. After you complete the second pentomino, you're going to continue on and using all the other pentominoes and determine what is the area and what is the perimeter. At the very end, on page 2, you're going to notice that there is something called My Pentomino Observations. You're going to look at each of the area and perimeter of all the different pentominoes and determine what kind of observations, is there something, there are patterns or similarities, etc. And write those down at the very end. And that is the end of the day 1 activity. Next, we're going to work into day 2 of the introduction and activity. On day 2, the first thing that you're going to want to do is first review what did we learn the first day. 1, all the pentominoes have an area of 5 square units. 2, the P pentomino has a perimeter of 10 units. And then 3, all the other pentominoes have a perimeter of 12 units. The next thing we're going to be doing is building rectangles with pentominoes. So I'm going to have you grab worksheet 2, and then I'm going to have you grab 3 different pentominoes in front of you. You're going to grab the P, the C, and then this shape right here. And then we're going to work on number 1 on worksheet number 2. All right? So we're going to be building rectangles. It says draw your shape. After you build your rectangle, what you're going to be doing is drawing your rectangle here, depending on what the shape is, and then you're going to determine the area and the perimeter. Area, again, is the space inside the figure. There's 3 ways that you can learn or figure out what the area is. The first way is to count up each of the different squares inside the shape. So if you count each individual square, that would tell you how many square units. The second way you can do it is times the length times the width of the shape. And then the third way that you can do it is basically determine saying, yep, there are 3 different pentominoes. We know how many squares are in each pentominoes, and we can multiply that together to get our area. So there's 3 different strategies that you can use. Then you can write down what the perimeter is. Again, you're counting the distance around the figure, so you can count each of the different squares on the outside of your shape of your rectangle, and that's going to be the first rectangle that you build. The next one, you're going to use 4 different pentominoes for number 2. These are the 4 different pentominoes, and I want you to challenge yourself, see how fast that you can create this rectangle with using these 4 different shapes. Again, after you're all said and done, you're going to draw your rectangle again. You're going to determine what the area is of square units, and then you're going to determine what the perimeter is in units. Number 3, 4, and the rest of the different numbers have a little bit different look to them. So in number 3, you're going to be given 5 different pentominoes. Again, creating a rectangle. What is the area and the perimeter? Number 4, you're going to notice that it actually tells you the area is 20 square units. So you have to actually build a shape using any of the pentominoes that has an area of 20 square units. And then the perimeter, you're going to determine what the perimeter is after that you've made a shape that has 20 square units. And so then when you go to number 5, you find a perimeter. You have a perimeter of 18 units. In this case, you're going to determine what the area is, and then so on and so forth. The last one, the challenge, the last box, I would see what your parent and or teacher would like you to do if they want you to do that challenge and at what time. And that concludes the lesson for day number 2. As you can see, pentominoes can be used for a variety of different educational purposes. In this case, we used it for measurement. You can also use it for rotational or line symmetry, and as well as tessellations activities. We love your feedback, so make sure to reach out to us and give us any kind of input that you have about this lesson or other resources that you may want.